And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to HomeStory Cup 25. Day number 2, the group stage continues. We just wrapped up with Group C, and now we are here with the final group of the tournament, Group D. And we are jumping right in. We have our players, we have our veto set, our lobby is made, and we're jumping into game 1. Spawning in the top left-hand corner of Golden Aura, we have the Canadian Protoss player, the red Protoss, representing Basilisk. It is Trigger. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the pink Protoss player from land of Germany, representing himself. It is HolyHit. Let us go. Shout out to HolyHit, of course. He is a long-time streamer. He has a long-time content creator and also a competitor as well. Has been improving over the course of the past couple of years. And likewise is, I believe, embracing his first HomeStory Cup. I could be mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is HolyHit's first HomeStory Cup of his career, so I'm happy to bear witness to how he does contest against some of these more established players. It is going to be brutal for a series because up first we have Trigger, the NA representative. We've got Diego Kelzer representing Latin America in this tournament, and we have Trigger for North America. As they're, you know, we don't have Estrella, we don't have Scarlet, we don't have Future, but we do have Trigger standing in their place, representing the region here at HomeStory Cup. And we'll see if he can be stopped. Especially in the PvP. It's a PvP, anything can and anything will happen. Now, it's been a while since I've casted HolyHit. I think the last time I casted him was he on Berserker back in the day? Was he on Berserker Esports at one point? I remember casting HolyHit in a Team League match, like a couple of years ago. It's been a while though. It has been a while. Potentially even casting him during like a PassionCraft tournament or something like that, which is again more an event for amateur players, for those that are curious, for up-and-comers, and we'll see. We'll see how he does compare here to Trigger. For now, 2-gate opener. 2-gate opener out of Trigger, 2-gate opener out of HolyHit. So far, so good. We are mirroring each other. We're keeping up. We are holding on. And where does this take us? Cybercores are about to complete, and we're getting to our first units of choice. It's going to be Stalker Sentry out of HolyHit and Double Sentry out of Trigger. So Trigger being a little bit greedier here. We could even cancel a Sentry and go for a faster Nexus. Speaking of, we just go straight for that Nexus. Anyway, again, our units cost a little bit less, so we can be a little bit greedier here. So Trigger is cutting corners. Meanwhile, HolyHit's going for a safe standard opener. Sentry Stalker does allow us to have a bit of DPS, a little damage output with the army. Likewise, some scouting information as well. Sentry-based openers are very common in current StarCraft in the new patch, as there was a buff to the Sentry, which specifically does increase its efficiency and increase its utility in the PvP matchup. Does make it a little more viable, a little more safe to get into these Sentry-based openers, and that's what we are. So Trigger does have the slightly faster expansion, is settling in, throwing down his safety shield battery. Again, Trigger, he's going to have less DPS to work with, less damage output, but that's why we have a shield battery, to maintain ourselves to defend the natural base. Meanwhile, HolyHit, what are we up to? The probe does skirt around the edge of the map, had the Zonaga for a time, now going towards top right, and okay, we're just scouting. We're just getting some scouting information, nothing too major. Hallucination diving in as well. HolyHit is not hiding tech, he's also settling into his own base. And going for our tech of choice, Robo Opener out of HolyHit, Twilight Council out of Trigger. Hallucinations will confirm, Trigger, he's aware of the Robo, likewise HolyHit is aware of the Twilight Council, is aware of the would-be Blink, and we are settling in. Are going to be settling in now. With Blink, Trigger will have the more mobile army. 100%, he will have a much more mobile army available. He has a little micro potential with Blink. Meanwhile, HolyHit with the Robo Opener can have access to faster Immortal production to be able to make up for an otherwise Stalker deficit and to counteract that. Did go for a Prism for a moment. I'm curious if we go for a Warp Prism, an Observer, or an Immortal. You have our choice. It is going to be Prism. Now, if we go for a Prism Opener, basically the goal here is economic damage. What do I mean by that? Well, as you can imagine, adepts are quite commonplace when it comes to harassing mineral lines and threatening bases, but it can be difficult to actually get into a main. At this level of play, players are so good at walling off and walling up and denying shades into the main base. A Prism means you can just go straight in. And I'm not thinking deep enough here. I'm talking about adept harass into the main, but we double down. We're going for a Dark Shrine. Calm down. Let's go. Okay, HolyHit. Spicing things up here in game 1 now. It's risky. It's risky because of the Sentry Opener hallucinations, right? We send constant hallucination after hallucination after hallucination. This is the meta of current PvP, the non-stop scouting, so it's hard to keep this hidden. Speaking of, here comes the hallucination. HolyHit is in position at his natural. He does rotate over to deny the scout, but too little too late, and oh, we don't get the scout. Okay, pretty good. Hallucination goes down, and Trigger has not seen the tech yet, but moves out with a second hallucination again. That's the power of the sentry, is just the non-stop hallucinations here. Prism is waiting outside of the main. Hallucination diving in. The first hallucination didn't quite see much, and the second doesn't see much either. Okay, the rally less than ideal. So far, so good. Dark Shrine will finish, and DTs are about to warp in. Now, when it comes to our defensive setup here, we have a shield battery, we have a solid army at the third base location, as Trigger already has his third. HolyHit is still on the way, but what about detection? Observer just spawned in. We just now have one observer just in time. DTs are about to waddle into the third base and in towards the main. At the same time, NFC shade in. We spoke about the depth harass earlier, and 4 probes go down, almost a 5th. Pretty good damage so far to Trigger, and HolyHit, the pressure is on. We have to get some damage done. There we go. Prism into the main base. DT rocks up at the third. There's only one observer. Soon to be 2. Probes are going down. 5 workers so far going for the Artosis pylon, but the observer's coming in. And we do save it. We save the pylon, we zone away the prism, and the DT goes down at the same time. Second observer popped out, and we deal and clean up all the Dark Templar. 6 probe kills is good, but remember, we just killed 4 probes with 2 adepts. So it was an okay amount of damage. Trigger still ahead. Trigger still maintains a lead. He's on 55 probes against the 48 workers of HolyHit. What does HolyHit have that Trigger does not? Immortals. We spoke earlier about the Robo Opener and how that gives us access to Immortals, and that makes up for a smaller army. That's all we have. 3 Immortals. They pack a massive punch against a Blink Stalker based composition, but that is why in PvP you tech up further from here. Yes, we have Blink Stalkers, that's true, but we're soon about to have Charge. Charge Dots do an amazing job at buffering for Stalkers, tanking Immortal hits specifically, and allowing the Stalkers to break through the defensive line of the opposing player and get on top of those Immortals. So Charge is going to be a valuable option here, valuable addition to Trigger's army. Meanwhile, HolyHit rotating around. Charge is not quite done yet, and we can make use of these Immortals. We can still make use of them, we can still take a better fight, a better engage as we rotate over towards the 4th base. Trigger in the midst of expanding, taking a 4th, but it looks like we can force a cancel. Will we though? Force fields are thrown down, we zone away the army. Oh, but likewise the counter force fields, we catch an Immortal. Yeah, the Immortal is trapped, the Immortal goes down. And one Immortal does fall, but we are still going for the Nexus, and we force a cancel. HolyHit gets a cancel, he backs off, he gets away, and hopefully he's able to escape with most of his army as he does not quite catch the Observer. Going back in, going for the pylon. At the same time, DTs, they harass the right-hand side, but there's a cannon and a shield battery in position. The DTs, they do nothing. Trigger defends, Trigger holds. And even though Trigger was denied a 4th, it was a cancel on the 4th base, not a kill. And likewise, HolyHit doesn't have his own 4th. He doesn't even have saturation at the 3rd base. We're still down in workers. That was a good denial of a base, but HolyHit still needs more. He needs more damage dealt, especially considering he just lost an Immortal. Now, speaking of tech, with Charge coming into play, we have Colossus production here for Trigger. Now, you may not be aware, but Colossus do quite well in PvP. The downside of Colossus is they do poorly against Disruptors. If your opponent happened to be going into Disruptor production, Disruptors are kind of the checkmate move to Colossus, and you have to get out of that kind of tech. The force fields are thrown down, we catch another Immortal! Another Immortal does go down, Extend the Willingness is on the way. Colossus production is well underway here for Trigger. The first one is about to pop out. We can see Trigger spending his better economy on a larger army, on a higher quality army. At the same time, DTs do hit the 4th. This DT harass doing quite well. We do cancel a couple of shield batteries. We don't quite get on top of the Nexus. Observer does get here in time. HolyHit still being active, getting his own 4th base, about to finish. But in a head-on fight, I have to give the edge to Trigger. Like, HolyHit is going for these guerrilla tactics and going for these counterattacks left and right, trying to drag or pull Trigger apart, attack wherever he isn't. And we've been somewhat successful with that, but now Trigger is stabilizing. Now Trigger, he finally expands and takes a 4th base, shield batteries, cannons, stack defenses on the way. And now we can push. Now we can move out with our main army. And what does HolyHit have? He's keeping up with his gateway force, but +1 is almost halfway done. Trigger, he's about to finish +2. There's a timing, there's a window where Trigger will have +2 and HolyHit will be on 0-0. There's a brutal timing ahead of us, and Trigger with that with the upgrade lead, with the Colossus production as well. Trigger, he can break through this. HolyHit needs to buy time. The goal here is to go for these counterattacks, and there it is. Prism in towards the main base. We have DTs and Zealots. We need to force Trigger to stay back at home so that HolyHit can buy time to build up an army, to get into upgrades. The Prism, oh my god, the Prism barely survives. Trigger out of position, we're going for the 4th. We send it, Papi. Go up the ramp. The Prism, oh, so close to going down, will survive. You can see Trigger, he's rotating on the right hand side, and here we go. We push up the ramp, we force a recall. We have to back off. And the recall will be in time. Trigger did not recall his entire army, but is rotating over. He is collapsing on the force of HolyHit. Now we have to get the hell out of here. And we have the counter recall. HolyHit, he does come back home, does make it, does preserve most of his army, but did bleed out some immortals. And now we're pushing out, and now we're in trouble. Now there's nothing holding Trigger back. And Trigger, he has a 40 army supply lead. He's pushing in. Here in this mirror matchup, the soup does not lie. It does in other circumstances. Does often lie, but not this time. This time it's telling the truth. We dive on forward, we blink on top of the Immortals, we blink on top of the Colossus, but alas, the numbers are in favor of the red Protoss. The Stalkers, they melt. The Colossus stands strong. GG gets called, and Trigger takes game number 1. GG. GG, well played. Again, HolyHit, he had some flair in this game is what I will say. You know, the DT harass, the counterattacks as well was a nice addition. The Dark Shrine was not scouted. Somehow, some way, the Hallucination Scouts missed the Dark Shrine. But despite that, we weren't able to get enough damage done. We got 6 probes. That's all we really got in the end. And if you remember, HolyHit was still losing his own workers at the same time. So it was just a brutal position there for HolyHit. Wasn't able to make up for that, was denying bases, but his own economy was suffering, and with that, GG Trigger takes the lead. Does take a lead, but we're getting ready for game 2, we're getting ready to bounce back, and potentially force the ace match. I'm curious, what does HolyHit have planned? Game 1 was Dark Shrine, game 2, what do you got for us? One base all in, proxy. I feel like the map is going to play a big factor here into how and what builds we want to flex and what we want to bring to the table. We'll see. We're loading in to Amphion. We are going to be loading in. It's catching up in the chat. These colors are hard to tell who or who. Who's who? Protoss, Papi, Protoss. I do apologize, but we are settling into our next game. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Amphion, we have our red Protoss player representing Basilisk. Leading the series 1-0, it is a Trigger. And spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have the pink Protoss player himself, representing, or from the land of Germany, it is HolyHit. HolyHit, his color of choice is always pink, always has been, always will be. Similar to the Polish Protoss players, a lot of them do also either embrace pink or purple, just to keep the alliteration going. Pink or purple Polish Protoss players on Platinum Heroes. Yeah. All the P's, Papi, all the P's. HolyHit's attempting to do the same. But now Probe Scouts are moving out. And Trigger is going for an economic opener. We have the setup for a gate expand. I imagine gate, cyber expand here. Trigger staying on 1 gas for the time being, so he's going to be delaying his tech. So Trigger is cutting corners. Is cutting corners for the time being. We'll see if we take another gas geyser. Meanwhile, HolyHit opening up 2 gates. So HolyHit has the option. HolyHit has the option to go for an all-in and try to punish the greed of Trigger. Speaking of, straight up gate expand. This is the greediest opener you can go for. Even MaxPax doesn't do this. Basically, MaxPax, his go-to is second gas, Cybercore first, into a Stargate, then an expansion. But this is as greedy as you can be. The pressure and the onus is now on HolyHit to punish this. I mean, we just can't let Trigger get away with this, right? The problem is that we're on Amphion. Amphion is a unique map that has a unique feature, similar to Site Delta and Post-Youth, ramp. There's a ramp coming up into the natural base. This is why PvPs on this map lead into gate expands more often than not. Likewise on Site Delta and Post-Youth as well. Does give you quite a defender's advantage in a mirror matchup. That is huge. And HolyHit, how does he respond? So far, it's going to be a double Adept response. And, oh, it looks like we're going to be expanding. If we do expand, we're just going to be playing... we're just going to be working with an economic deficit. Robo's on the way. Okay. Robo's on the way. HolyHit, he's cooking. I'm ready for it. I'm ready. So we have 2 gateways. We have a Robo. I imagine we're going for a 3rd gateway and a 1 base all-in. I imagine that's where we're headed. Probe Scout gets denied. And we can see back across the map, Trigger trying to get ready. 2nd gateway has been thrown down. Probe gets shut down. But again, because of Trigger's single gas opener, his tech is later than we otherwise would expect because of how greedy his opener was. Adepts have arrived. We have a full wall off on the high ground. Adepts shouldn't get much done. They do confirm the Robo. Ooh, this Robo looking a bit exposed. We could try to punish this, and there's the 3rd gateway. 1 base all in. Straight up, 1 base all in here out of HolyHit. We're amassing gateway units. We have options. We can either go for a Robo, sorry, Immortal. If it was an Immortal, it should have been proxied, so I imagine a Prism here from HolyHit, just so we can reinforce, and there it is. Yeah, the Prism is moving out across the map. Now, with this Warp Prism, we can not just reinforce, we can also try to come in from behind and go straight into the natural and avoid the wall. We can go straight to the natural, we can go straight to the main base. We have options. Do have options here. How we want to progress. You can see the Adepts are at least rotating around. The goal here is going to be to get Adepts into the main base to try to cripple the economy and then push in towards the front lines at the natural. But Immortals are amassing. Immortals are on the way. This is not going to be an easy push here from HolyHit. More Stalkers rallying. Again, like the lack of proxy makes this all in really awkward. It does take a while to really get across the map, but Adepts, they do shade in. They shade in towards the natural. Trigger's in position. Would you commit? And how many probe kills can we get? So far getting 1, potentially 2 probes. At the same time, we do try to push in. The Immortal, the high ground, the shield battery, the overcharge. We're going for the Robo. The Robo is exposed. And we can knock it down. But we pop the overcharge, keeping it alive. The Immortal, we can juggle back. Yeah, Trigger's holding. He's holding on. The Robo refuses to go down. And juggling back with the Immortal. 2nd Immortal is about to pop in. And HolyHit just doesn't have enough. Is ahead in Stalkers, sure, but this position is just so brutal. It's just so entrenched. Yeah, especially with the 2nd Immortal now arriving. Prism tries to dip in, but alas, we do get eyes on it. Trigger keeps up. Trigger does keep up with the rotation. And Trigger even going for his own counter-attack. And again, Trigger is on 2 bases. He's up on workers. HolyHit is all in. HolyHit barely has an economy. He's expanding. He's trying to transition out of this. And we force a recall. The Stalkers, a recall back home. Prism, oh, barely survives. Adepts, threatening the main. Catching some probes. Yeah, 2, 3 probes go down. We confirm there is an expansion on the way. And GG gets called. There's no macroing out of this. Trigger will take the series 2-0. Starting off strong here at HomeStory Cup. GG. GG, well played. Congratulations to Trigger. Again, he's coming in as the NA representative. Of course, from Canada, representing the lands of the Americas here, and does start off with a win. HolyHit, I did appreciate how he approached game 1 with the DTs. I got some damage done, and he was being active on the map. Eventually, he was overwhelmed, but didn't look too bad at all. Here in game 2 was just a really awkward position for HolyHit. As we mentioned, Trigger didn't just open up economically and greedily. That was the greediest opener you can go for in PvP. Going for the straight up gate expand off of 1 gas, like you don't get greedier than that. It was yeah, it was just a wild build there at a Trigger. The onus was on HolyHit to punish it, and he did go for a 1 base all in, but it did feel like it took a while to really get going, and unfortunately the Adepts were shut down as well, so the Adept harass in the main didn't quite get much damage done. Time was working against HolyHit, and the longer the game went on, the better it became for Trigger. GG. GG, well played. Trigger does take it, and we're going to be getting into our next series. We're going to be following our players here and following our matches. !B in the chat. If you guys want to have a look at the back of yourselves, let us hop on over, refresh,